Sounds great.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Welcome to the Norfolk County Commissioners meeting of Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. There's an executive order on remote participation. On Thursday, March 12th, 2020, Governor Baker issued an order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Master General Law, Chapter Section 30A, Section 20. That order was effective immediately until it is rescinded or the state of emergency is terminated. On Wednesday, June 16th, 2021, by action of the legislature, the order was extended until April 1st, 2022, and this is a remote participation meeting. We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Stady?
Present, I am here.
And I am present also. Unfortunately, Commissioner Shea is unavailable. And we're going to go into the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Is there any public comment today? John, did we get any correspondence with regard to public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on. Appointments, there are none. Old business?
None.
None. Terrific. Okay, Dick, we have some personnel matters for consideration. I believe that you have them in your packet.
I do. I will go forward with your permission, Mr. Chairman. If you want
Terrific.
me to. These are for the Norfolk County Agricultural High School. I'll move the following notice of resignations first. Resignation for Amanda Gallerani of Oxford, Mass. as a substitute instructor. The resignation of Stephen R. Elswig of Attleboro, Mass. as a long-term substitute instructor. The notice of resignation of Ethan Morrell of Whitman, Mass. as substitute instructor. And the notice of resignation of Eric Condon of Milford as a student worker. Those dates, the first three are 9/7/21, and Eric Condon is effective 9/10/21. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, moving
All right,
on.
Moving on, with your permission, I'd move the notice of contingent employment for Dorothy Santoro of Medway, Mass. as a substitute nurse at the rate stated, effective 9/20. And a notice of contingent employment for Daniel Theobald of Norwood, Mass. as substitute instructor, again, effective 9/20. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's a vote. Okay, next is the personnel matters for the Wallaston Recreational Facility.
Right, I believe they're all notice of contingent employment, so I'll move them together as a group. Mr. Chairman, Samantha M. Champagne of Attleboro, Mass. as a seasonal pro shop employee. Same for Patricia E. Gerard of Boston, Mass. and for Vincent T. Capone of Quincy, Mass. These are all seasonal employees or contingent employment, I'll say, at the Wallaston facility, and they're all effective on the same date, 9/16/21. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's a vote also. So the next is payroll and expense warrants for approval.
Right, I have that, Mr. Chairman. I'll
Terrific.
move the following. Let's see, first 22-11 payroll of the county, $139,059.43.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one is 21-2 debt interest, $520,121.88. So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's
Third,
unan-
expense of the county of 9/3/22 in the amount of $100,815.76. So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. And
Aye.
finally, Mr. Chairman, expense for the school of 22-03 in the amount of $1,761,875.07. So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay, terrific. One thing I wanted to ask you, Dick, as you are participating remotely, do we have your permission subsequent to these different votes to use your signature stamp?
Yes, permission is granted for the votes that require a signature and only for the ones that require signature. But that's certainly fine. Thank you for asking.
Okay,
Yep.
terrific. Okay, the next one are bid openings. We don't have any, so we're moving on to 9 contract awards. There's Sorry.
Nancy's.
Oh, Nancy is here. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Peter.
Why
How
don't you
are you?
lead us through this one?
Okay, we just have one contract for the agricultural high school. It's for the lease of a Konica Minolta copy machine in the amount of $178.31 a month for a total price of $6,419.16 for a period of 3 years. The pricing is from state contract ITC 66.
Okay, I don't have any problem with that. How about you, Dick?
I'm trying to follow it. Is that, I've got the thing in front of me, so I want to make sure I'm clear. It says lease of one copier for 3 years at Norfolk Aggie School. Is that what we're voting on, Peter? Is that
Yes.
the one?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't get any backup on it. It just said what Nancy said. Could you repeat it if I'd have the amount, please? Do you mind?
Sure. It's a 3-year lease.
Yeah.
And the amount is $178.31 for a total 3-year price of $6,419.16.
Okay, I would move that, Mr. Chairman, the amount of $6,419.16 for the lease of the copier for a 3-year period for Norfolk County Aggie School, as outlined and presented.
Okay, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's a vote. Thank you. That's all right.
Thanks, Nancy.
Item number 10 was a Mass DOT request for the Norfolk County Commissioners, and there were 2 different items. So,
Patrick is remote.
hi, Patrick, you're remote today. You want to fill us in on the 2 requests from the Mass DOT?
Hi, Katie.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yes, Commissioner Collins, thank you. We received notices from Mass DOT regarding a temporary easement that was taken in Avon, Mass. And they submitted the order of taking to the county commissioners. And I'm requesting that the county commissioners have the easement, temporary easement recorded and filed in the county commissioners' records, and that they request a receipt returned back to them, that it's been recorded and filed. Same number 2 on that was Mass DOT order taking along Mass Highway Layout 8811, alteration in Bellingham. This is, and it's a multiple alterations and takings of the state highway layout in Mechanic Street in Bellingham, and they are basically the same item. They want the county request that the county commissioners file the alterations in the county commissioners' records, and that they request a receipt returned to them confirming such filing.
I have a couple of quick questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
So what we've done in the past is we've always made sure that the request first came from the town and then came from the state. So is Avon in support of their request, and is Bellingham in support of the request affecting Bellingham?
I believe that these, the temporary easement in Avon and the alteration taken in Bellingham, they've already been completed and taken fully. And this is just a requirement that per Chapter 81, Section 5, that the county commissioners file the recordings in their records.
That's great.
So these have already occurred and happened, and it's a notice to us that they've happened. So I believe the town would have been notified already.
Okay, I'm all set. Commissioner Stady, your thoughts?
Yeah, quick question through you, Mr. Chair. It says that this has to be signed by our chairman, Mr. Shea. So what happens in that case? Do you need to take action and have Peter do it? Or can you wait and have Mr. Shea sign it next week? What's the procedure? We don't want to invalidate anything. What happens on that, Patrick?
I can actually answer that, Dick. So in the past, what we've done is the acting chair can receive the vote from the board to sign. So
Okay.
I'm fine signing it if you're all right with me signing
I'm
it.
fine. No, I just want to know procedurally. Fine. Okay. Now we take each one separately. Peter, you want to take each vote separate? Vote each one?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Do you want to make the votes?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a try. Let's give it a shot. I'll move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the Mass DOT taken of a temporary easement in Avon. Said layout is an order taken dated July 7, 2021, as outlined and described, taken along the section of Mass Highway Layout 2704 of East Main Street, Route 28, and East Spring Street in the town of Avon. or action there related there too. How's that?
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Okay, that's a vote. Okay, the
All
next
right.
one.
Second one, I'll do motion to approve the Mass DOT order of layout and take-in for Mass Highway Layout 8811, alteration in Bellingham, Mass, Mass DOT, Bellingham Layout 8811, alteration dated August 25th, 2021, as further outlined and described, and several sections of the state highway layout that were altered and laid out by the layout, and they require this taking in Bellingham, Mass. So moved.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's a vote.
All
Terrific. Okay, so now we're on to the item 11, the FY22 first supplemental appropriation operating for approval. I'm going to turn that over to John Cronin, the director.
right, John, I don't have the information on this, so go slow, but thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Peter. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll try to be quick with my delivery here, but we have before us an opportunity to settle some business associated with our FY21 surplus, attending to obviously some supplemental needs as well as some movement of funds into various accounts. Let me describe briefly. The FY21 budget closed with a surplus of $5,288,511.54. $500,000 of that amount was used to fund the FY22 budget. So consequently, when you remove that, the amount that's in play on the spreadsheet in front of you was $4.788 million. I'm proposing today to transfer $1,045,277 into our stabilization fund. I'm proposing to fund the FY22 capital spending budget, which you all approved back in June, totaling $894,300. I'm proposing to fund the FY23 capital budget at $1 million exactly. I'm proposing to fund $648,934 for FY22 supplemental needs. I'm proposing to move $200,000 into our OPEB obligations or liability. And finally, I'm looking to move $1 million into the capital relief capital fund for FY22 county needs, including potential Norfolk County Agricultural High School relief. The spreadsheet that I provided you listed these 7 items at the top. And below, I offer a little bit of detail, which I'll explain briefly here. Number one, regarding our surplus, the amount raised and provided to the county in FY21 was historic. You'll note that for the period FY17 to FY20, we never had a surplus over $2.1 million. So the amount that we received this past fiscal year was, in fact, quite extraordinary. Gives us the opportunity to fortify our reserves and apply necessary funds to our needs and priorities. Number two, our stabilization fund currently sits at 11.97% of our operating budget at $3.8 million. When you hear from the Abrahams Group, or as you've heard from them, there is some suggestion in there that the financial guidelines for the county will now require or enable us to store up to 20% of our operating budget in stabilization. Moving this additional $1.05 million into the stabilization fund will bring us closer to 15.2% of our operating budget from FY22, which is an extraordinary leap in the direction of fortifying our reserves for future rainy day use. Number three, our FY22 capital spending plan was built from a 5-year capital plan that was built by the Abrahams Group. You folks approved that, as I mentioned, in June. So we're applying these funds against those known items. Incidentally, I'll have a report for this commission sometime, I believe, after October 4th, which was the first quarterly marker to figure out how long our departments are spending the money associated with this funding. One piece of note as we move into number 4 for the FY23 capital plan is that the way the Abrahams Group is suggesting we prepare our capital plan, first of all, is to decouple it from our operating budget. That's been achieved. We intend to have an FY23 budget for capital needs in front of the commissioners in October, as required by our new guidelines. Using the surplus from FY21, I'm going to apply $1 million towards the obligation of that plan. That will mean that when you approve of the plan in some form in October, not only will you be approving the projects, but also the funding to back them up, which places us in a perfect position to begin FY23, that is July 1st, 2022, with funded projects right out of the gate. Consequently, we'll use any surplus developed in following years in the same fashion, a little bit in advance. We'll be funding it in advance without having to rely on unknown reserves or unknown surpluses. The FY23 capital plan that was prepared by the Abrahams Group had a $1.59 million cost for irrigation upgrades to the Walston course. That's an extraordinary amount of money to use against a total capital budget that is approximately $1 million. I'm proposing today that we remove this from the project due to the cost and likely evaluate this if and when the Quincy District Court liquidation goes through and we realize financial gain from that project from the Commonwealth, expected, as you probably know, in FY23 or FY24. So that is one measure that I would look ahead to use those resources for. Before I get into the supplemental needs, are there any questions so far on the bigger picture issues?
But I'll let Peter, if you want to, can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, Dick, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm looking now. I just got your memo, John. Thank you. It's clearly written out. Is your goal today to basically use up all of the surplus will be spent then? Is that what you're allocating? The 4,788,511 will be all allocated down below? So we'll have no surplus left?
Well, the surplus just goes into different places, Commissioner. So
Okay.
you are correct. Please note that it does not remove the flexibility of the commissioners or the county to address any financial concerns that may emerge in the following 9 months of the fiscal year. Note that the $1 million that's at the very bottom, Commissioner, it is earmarked currently for up to $1 million for the agricultural school. In the event the county needs to draw upon that $1 million for future supplemental needs in FY22, we will use that portion of that money and the balance would be used towards the schools.
Okay, you answered my question. So in other words, given the constraints that we have and given also the guidelines that the consultant's giving us, we still would have the flexibility if we had to shift some of the money along in different lines, again, with advisory board approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay, one more question, if I may, Peter, with your permission. Is this also addressing the issue we had about the bonded debt because of the a little bit of a delay that we had there? Does this take into account some of the things we talked about? We had mentioned maybe taking care of the debt with a cash payment. Remember that? There was some discussion on that.
Indirectly, it does. Let me explain. And that comes up in a little bit. If you wouldn't mind, Commissioner, I'll defer the answer until we get a little further down on the list. Is that
That's
okay?
fine. No, that's fine, because I just got this just now, so that's fine. I'm not trying to jump the gun. That's fine. Those were the two thoughts I had. I'm all set, Peter. Thank you, John. Nice job. Nice job.
So far. Keep going.
Yeah.
You go.
Okay, our supplemental needs, and I'll be quick. The list is relatively long. I've broken them out into departments, starting with information technology. As you know, we've been attempting to invest in a lot of the outdated technology and security needs here in our commissioner's office. We're looking to move funds for a new email upgrade, Microsoft 365, 2 new servers, cloud storage for our Tyler Infinite Vision software. This is a major improvement that is directed at enabling users to have remote access into their time and attendance module, as well as our budget systems. This really makes us mobile and gives us the potential to use the system remotely if and when we ever needed to. Furthermore, the cloud storage is much more robust and secure. This particular item, that $63,000, will be offset in FY23. Currently, we pay approximately $45,000 a year to Tyler to maintain a system. This $63,000, once we purchase this item, will be offset by that cost in FY23. So the real impact is about $18,000. Furthermore, we're looking for Microsoft Software Enterprise upgrade, a software to produce org charts and other imagery that the Microsoft Suite does not provide for, up to an $80,000 investment in an asset management software. Briefly, I'm looking to invest in a software package that is well known in the educational circles and other areas as a product that can track all assets, and that includes not just where they are, what their values are for our GAAP asset reporting, for our insurance coverage, but also for maintenance and repair scheduling. So you know how often you're maintaining your HVAC units, your rooftop units, your boilers, and so forth. And also you'll have instant access to any warranties associated with roof replacement or other facility related items. This package is invaluable, and we do expect to be putting this out to bid once the funding is approved by the county. The last two are items that should look a little familiar. When I got here in June, we immediately started talking about building security. These two items will provide fob access to the building, as well as electronic access control systems and security upgrades. The Wollaston Golf Course. These are three items that were originally part of a bond concept, but could not be funded through the bond. We're bringing them forth through the supplemental to repair the three walkways, which are in very bad shape at the Wollaston Golf Course. These are hard quotes that Nancy has achieved. And also, I wanted to draw your attention to the $100,000 item. After much discussions with various people, including Commissioner Shea, we're placing before you an option to approve the $100,000 for the playground upgrade at the Wollaston Recreational Facility. Currently, the playground is quite antiquated and in dire need of some kind of upgrade. While we recognize the $100,000 will not repair, replace, or upgrade that facility in its entirety, it is a stake in the ground and a commitment by the county to move forward on improvements. Speaking with our Assistant Director, Bill Buckley, with your permission and the approval of the advisory board, we'll use this investment parlay to the general court and ask the state to hopefully fund through grant or other means a matching amount so that we can begin upgrading the playground at the Wollaston Recreational Facility. $40,000 into the Registry of Deeds was the only request from the register. This would cover legal services associated with some litigation. Excuse me, it's in green because it would be coming from his deeds excise account rather than the supplemental fund. The Norfolk County Agricultural High School has requested capital transfers. Those are noted in your packet. They are simply moving around funds associated with some projects so that they could prioritize the replacement of some other items, including second page. They're giving up a pickup truck so that they could, and part of the Kemp Hall oil tank removal for an administrative building boiler replacement program. So it's a movement of approximately $60,000 within the existing unapproved capital plan. Other than that, the Norfolk County Agricultural School is not within the supplemental request, absent the $1 million, which I'll get to in just a second. Moving on, the maintenance department requested funding to replace steam traps at the Rentham and Dedham District Courts. The total amount for all of that is $23,000. The Stoughton District Court overage. You folks may recall that the Stoughton District Court was put out to bid in the spring. In this past summer, we encountered some problems with structural ability to hold the new rooftop units. Proposed change orders have exceeded the available amount on that particular authorization. This $100,000 will cover that. And it's also a hedged issue, and I want to explain the call-out box. Currently, there's a sizable carryover of the expense associated with Stoughton that's assigned to the bidder that was awarded the job. However, it is likely we're going to have to rebid the project because it exceeds Chapter 30B guidelines. We cannot guarantee that that vendor will receive the bid. So subsequently, we're taking the full amount of the necessary completion funds and putting it here. In the event that the current contractor does not get the bid, that encumbrance will lapse and the money comes back to us. If the current.
Hold on, excuse me,
Sure.
if I could. So you're saying Stoughton cannot go forward again? There's another delay?
No,
Starting again, all over again?
no, what we're doing, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm sorry. What we're saying
Okay.
is we are, because of the proposed change order, the size dictates that we have to go out and back out to bid. We can do a waiver bid, which is much more streamlined, but the
Okay.
process of doing that, Commissioner, does not guarantee that the existing vendor will receive the award. That's all it means.
Okay, got it.
We
Okay,
want to
got
be
it,
very
got it.
conservative and careful that we don't presume anything, because if the existing contractor does not get the money, the encumbrance does not get released to the new vendor. And
All
so the 100,000 covers all of our needs.
I got it. Yep, thank you.
Okay. The treasurer is looking for $10,000 for legal services associated with transitional work that he has requested. He's also looking for administrative support of up to 20 hours a week. This is a prorated amount. It is $30,000 annualized.
Is that due to ARPA, perhaps indirectly, or is that something we can get reimbursed through ARPA, or what's the rationale for that?
The treasurer did not indicate it was ARPA related. It was more office administration and support for his needs. ARPA would not be an appropriate use of funds in this case because it would be beyond the grant purpose.
Okay,
Engineering. We have, as you probably know, an approved project over here across the street at Old River Place associated with a drainage issue that we've been working with the town of Dedham, the Conservation Commission on. Patrick Higgins and his group have helped us refine the numbers. Will require an additional $11,000 for design and permitting above that budget, as well as an additional $33,000 above the construction budget. These costs, like many that you'll be hearing about over the next several months, are all related to rising costs associated with supplies, materials, and supply streams. And then finally, we're requesting $15,000 to fund office furniture. That includes chairs, file cabinets, and desks for the commissioner's office. We're looking to upgrade the material within this office that has not been touched in many, many years. So the total amount of supplemental needs for our various departments is $688,934. I'll pause at this point, Commissioner Collins, if there are any questions associated with the departmental transfers.
I have no questions. How about you, Dick?
yeah, just to clarify, thank you, Peter. So the amount we're going to be requesting and moving would be that amount, and that would be then presented to our advisory board, FinCom, tomorrow, correct? That amount
Correct.
there?
That's correct.
Is that right? Okay. Any idea on the Wollaston Golf Course of a possible timetable, or is that too soon to talk about on those walkways? They are in tough shape. They're in bad shape.
I don't have a time frame, Commissioner. I suspect once the funding is approved, we'll be moving very quickly to try to get an estimate of time from the contractors. We recognize that getting it done after the golf season is over, but before winter sets around is probably the goal.
Okay,
But
good.
I honestly don't have an time frame right now.
Okay.
Good question.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to vote on this? Do you need a vote, or is it too soon? Or do you want John to continue? What do you need? Tell me. That's your pleasure.
You can take a vote on the transfers at this time because the endorsement commissioners comes in the form of these transfer forms that have been prepared by Phil and Tosca. One's for the capital transfers and one is for the operating transfers. If it's helpful for you, I'll help make the motion with the information in front of me. And upon your vote, I can complete my presentation, or I
Sure.
can complete the presentation and then we do this, whichever you pleasure.
Sure. That sounds fine.
What would you like, Dick? Do you want to hear the rest of the presentation first?
Yeah, let's let him keep going. That's fine, Peter. Let him keep, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't, losing track of stuff. Go ahead. That's fine. We'll go with the flow. That's fine.
So one other area, item number 6 is our OPEB contribution towards our liability. As the commissioners may know, Norfolk County, like many public organizations in Massachusetts, very large unfunded liability for employee benefits. In this case, Norfolk County's June 2020 liability was $57,054,764, a very substantial fund. What bond rating agencies and other advisors, including auditors, want to see is that the county has a plan. They don't judge you on how big or little the plan is. They want to make sure that you recognize the liability and you are doing something towards that liability. You folks know better than I that the county doesn't have unlimited resources. So I understand that the operating budget for FY21, FY22 included $100,000 in contributions towards that liability. Subsequently, currently, we are sitting on a $55,176,593 liability.
55 million.
I beg your pardon, 55 million as a result of those contributions in FY21 and FY22. This afternoon, I'm recommending a $200,000 additional payment towards that liability to reduce it below 55 million to $54,976,593. effectively moving almost $400,000 since June of 2020 towards our liability. It's a very firm, a very deliberative and meaningful contribution towards the liability. I think we all recognize that is a substantial liability that will take many years to cure. But again, our bond rating and other advisors would recommend that we have some plan to keep going. What this plan does is it accentuates and adds to the plan. Number 7, I'm planning to set aside up to $1 million in the capital fund for future relief once the fiscal plan to correct the structural deficiency is received and adopted by the trustees for the Norfolk County Agricultural High School. Commissioner Stady brought up a question earlier regarding the school bonds and our situation relative to that. This past week, I had a follow-up call with Hilltop Securities, which manages our debt, and we are not prepared yet to go out to bond because we have not completed our audit. Our audit is expected to be completed sometime in mid to late October. So subsequently, the county will have to move for bonding action sometime in November. Hilltop Securities wishes to have a conference call with the trustees of the school sometime in early November to inquire about the school's plan to restore structural stability to its ability to handle debt. This $1 million that I propose is a purposeful move in the direction of supplying some financial resources towards the school's cure. There are a lot of different ways we could do that, and Commissioner Stady is correct. In the past, I've recommended that one method would be to use a large lump sum payment against the debt to lower the operating costs that the schools incur every year. That's one approach. Another approach is to use some portion of this next year and the year after to supplement the school's budget while they cure their financial structural deficiency. A lot depends on what the schools present to the trustees. But I think Hilltop Securities and the commissioners need to focus very clearly on the need to do something. What this presents is a fiscal opportunity and the flexibility for the county to deal with whatever plan is developed. And as I want to emphasize, it is not the full $1 million for the schools. It is up to that amount. We're going to have to probably tap into this value from time to time for the remainder of FY22 to resolve any unforeseen items that may surface. So it is a move that helps give us the flexibility to address a concern that will emerge for FY23 planning with the schools. Briefly on the bottom, I just wanted to give you and the Finance Committee and Advisory Board a look ahead. This supplemental plan does not solve all the problems. It never could. But we are mindful that the Dedham Superior Court project is underway. That's a $1.5 million bonded project. There is no contingency on that. Right now, they're in the beginning phases of the project, scaffolding's up. They will probably wrap up their work in about 2 months and mothball for the winter, and then resume again sometime in April when the season is favorable. So we don't expect any unforeseen problems at this time for the project, but I'm mindful that sometime in the third quarter or maybe later, the county may be looking at some financial issues that could emerge. It's a very old building, and I guess we have to anticipate that something may emerge that's beyond the funded portion of that project. We're watching the Rentham boiler. It's over 50 years old. It is scheduled for FY23 capital plan, so we're going to monitor its performance as we go into the heating season. We are going to implement a new asset software tracking system with the approval of this supplemental needs I spoke to earlier that will give us the ability to monitor schedules for maintenance, warranties, and other capital needs. The Quincy District Court, as you know, is under site assessment by the Commonwealth for likely sale. We'll need funds for an independent appraisal later in FY22. The commissioners may remember during a call, we heard from our legal counsel, Scott Lopez, in his conversations with DCAM, who is going to do an appraisal that is probably in our best interest to have our own independent appraisal to compare with whatever the Commonwealth produces. The Dedham District Court roof project will be bid this fall. Work will be done in the spring 2022, again, when climate conditions are favorable, and we'll monitor that for any price changes. Again, that's a funded project within our capital plan, but given the supply stream and inflationary costs that seem to be creeping in on construction, we're going to have to keep an eye on whether or not we've isolated enough funding to complete that job this coming spring. Well, in addition, this transfer and the ones you will endorse today do cover the movement of funds within our accounts to fund the temporary salaries versus permanent salaries. As the commissioners know, there were certain facility and technology positions in various budgets that were not funded as temporary funded permanent positions. The funds were permanent category. This transfer, which is on the form, not necessarily presented on the spreadsheet, does achieve the movement of the funds to carry those salaries to the end of June 2022. And then finally, the Abraham's report to the commissioners will be on September 22nd. That's a typo right there, I apologize. And will provide extension recommendations that will likely move you to consider impacts for FY23 for any implementation. That concludes the presentation. Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll take any questions if they are, and if there aren't, I'll help you with the motion for the transfers.
I'm all set, Dick. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, a couple, Peter. Thank you. John, nice job. As always, you did a fine job outlining everything. I have a couple of concerns though, Peter, as a commissioner, I suppose, maybe, and if I'm need to be corrected, certainly, I'm always open for constructive criticism. You mentioned that, we're worried about boilers that may be tenuous at any minute. That boiler in Rentham could go down. We don't know that. No one's Houdini, but we could have a problem there. We know fully well that we have an ever increasing legal obligation with legal bills that may be starting to get higher as different events unfold. And we also should be keeping in mind that, we have a series of contracts that will need to be negotiated and the implication of funding those as well. With that, I think I'm a little hesitant, although I think I understand your rationale, John. I mean to be politely disagreeable with you. I don't think we should fund the additional OPEB 200,000. I feel more comfortable perhaps saving some of that money for the things I've outlined and maybe moving just 100,000. I'm okay with reducing the debt. I understand it's important. I'm all for it. But to put 200,000 when you're outlining possible boiler breakdowns, we've got a legal account that's not even mentioned here, and other things I've outlined, I feel a little troubled with that item. Otherwise, I'm okay with the supplemental request, Peter. I can move that, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on my motion, but my thoughts on cutting that back a little bit. That's where I am today. Did you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heard it. John, your response?
So the commissioner brings up some good points. I understand the concern about the OPEB contribution. Again, I just wanted to emphasize that the approach taken here was to show our bond rating agencies and other auditors making an affirmative step to invest in that liability. I do want to call attention to the fact that we have an approved capital plan for FY22. In the event that we encounter any problems, i.e. the Rentham boiler, we could certainly reprioritize some of the capital items that have already been approved. There's over $1 million in various funds that were approved for FY22. If we encountered a problem with a boiler, we could tackle that. One of the issues that I want to draw out is in that plan is over $270,000 for the Dedham District Court. We don't plan on encumbering that fund until the contract is awarded sometime late this year, probably early 2022. So that I consider that as available cash in the event we encountered any major capital problem, i.e. the Rentham boiler. So it's really a choice of the commissioners if they want to invest additional funds towards OPEB. In this case, I'm presenting 200,000 because I felt like it was a meaningful space to show our bond rating agencies that we're seriously committed to something. And the flexibility exists within our existing FY22 capital budget to handle any problems that may emerge.
If I can jump in too, Dick. So from what I understand and the way John explained it, the bond rating review would be in November. So if we make that move now, they can see us moving forward with more than just 100 grand, it'd be 200 grand. And we still have other flexibility within the budget to address any capital needs that might arise. But your thoughts?
And I totally appreciate that, John and Peter. I really do. And I understand what direction we want to go. I'm for that. My only concern, I don't have those numbers in front of me, is that I know that we've taken on some additional legal endeavors that are driving our account upward. And I'm not sure if we have, enough to cover it, or if there's going to be, Rob and Peter to take care of Paul. And I just feel a little more comfortable. I mean, we could always make an additional payment, couldn't we, prior to November to the OPEB? Could we do 100,000 now? And then maybe make another payment in October, once we saw some other issues, if you know what I'm saying, settle down?
Would there be
Makes
another
sense.
board meeting before November?
No.
So that's just it, Dick. So this is our one shot, because the advisory board meeting, the next one's going to be at Christmas. So in December. So if we're going to try to do this before the bond rating agency, because it has a conference call with us, we'd have to do it before then. And this may be affecting our bond rating.
How much of a difference for you, Mr. Chairman? John, how much of a difference does 200,000 really matter versus 100,000? I mean, we'll still have quite a bit of a liability, but does it make a difference? I mean, have you talked to someone, and I mean this candidly, so that would make a difference in getting a better rating with that additional payment? Is that something you could tell truthfully that would help us?
I can give you some insight to that question. This
Yep.
past week, I mentioned we spoke, Joe Doria is on the call, by the way, our assistant treasurer. He and I
Yep.
joined Hilltop on the call. They did review this supplemental budget request, and Cinder was thrilled. She was quite ecstatic that we were moving money into a stabilization fund, that we were not withdrawing, that we were showing a commitment towards the OPEB liability, and that we were funding our capital project. So I can't give you an answer, Commissioner, on whether or not $100,000 or $200,000 moves the needle, but I can tell you that she was quite thrilled with the picture that was presented to us, and she was excited to work with us.
Okay,
Joe,
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate
our
that.
treasurer's
And I
on the
didn't
phone.
realize,
His opinion.
all right, but we need to move it now because of the fact we need advisory board approval, right? I wasn't aware of that in terms of that. We need that approval now. One last question then. Can you tell me if in a round way, are we sufficiently covered in the legal account, or are we going to be looking for a transfer or things like that? Are we okay there?
So we don't know yet. The legal account is obviously funded a lump sum every year. It's unknown how much we'll consume.
Yeah.
But you're right, Commissioner, we've had a fair amount of legal activity in the first quarter. I've asked
Mhm.
Nancy to give me a projection of what that is. If we
Yeah.
kept the current run rate through to June 30th, we would need supplemental funds to close the year. But because we have 9 months to go, and we have adequate resources to get us through at least the next quarter, I didn't see any purpose behind identifying any supplemental needs at this time. Again, it is all subject to the needs of our legal demands. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. It's likely, I would think, that by the end of the year, we'll need some kind of supplemental relief, but it's really too early to tell how much that is because our run rate has not been defined.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm fine. You answered my questions. I'll yield. We'll go with that 200,000 payment, and that's fine. At least we got it out there and we vetted it a little bit. I'm fine. Thanks, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, so you're all right. I think we need a motion on this, right, John? So we need a motion for items 11 and 12. So I think we can do them together because it's one big budget. But so the first is 11 fiscal year 22 first supplemental appropriation operating for approval. And that was, I think, 688,934.
Actually,
Right. I just had it and I lost it. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. I had it on my screen. I believe the motion would be, Mr. Chairman, that we move for a supplemental appropriation in the total amount of $688,934. So moved.
that motion's okay, but now we have to transfer the funds. So there'll be additional.
Okay, so that's motion number one. I'll second your motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that part's done. What's the second part, John?
So these transfers, excuse me, I had a fly in my throat here. These transfers are inclusive of other funding options, including, as I mentioned, the temporary salaries. So if you'd allow me, the operating transfers offset will be totaling $1,809,838.94. This would be the transfer of funds associated with all of the items mentioned above. That includes the transfer to stabilization, capital budgets, and so forth. And that is for the operating budget.
Want to give me that number again?
What's that amount again? I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear you. Say it again, the total amount?
I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. 1,809,838.94.
Okay.
That's
So
your
the
op-
motion, Mr. Chairman, would be for the amount to transfer $1,809,838.94
Second.
as
All in favor?
described by our director on this day and is outlined in this memo.
Terrific. Okay, so I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's a vote. Good job.
That was your
What
operating.
about the OPEB motion? Is that a separate motion or is that included in all that?
It's all included.
It was inclusive of your operating transfer.
Okay, good. Okay.
Now do the capital piece, because some of these items that that we've spoken about fall into capital categories, okay?
Okay,
And
so
this is also inclusive of the school's request that Rick Fitzpatrick had sent along. The total amount of capital transfer is $1,378,305.
$1,378,300? No,
$305.
I can't hear him. It's breaking up. $1,378,000.
$305.
Got it. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
do-
I'll move that. I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that votes in.
You know, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just double checked the operating number. I did not see that. Oh, there it is. The OPEB is in there. I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Okay,
We're good.
moving on to item 13. Request from Deirdre Spada Benefit Fund for charity golf rate. Would you want to make a motion on that, Dick?
Yes, I got to get back to my main menu, but I think there was a charity event. Someone was looking for some help,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
That's correct. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just trying to get it called back up here. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'm on Florida time here, let's see. Okay. A request for Deidre Spada Benefit Fund for the charity golf rate. I would move the approval for the charity event as requested.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Moving on. Item 14, report on American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Back to John.
Very brief update here. This morning, we had a tri-county meeting with Plymouth and Bristol to hear from the legal representative from Ms. Levin on the status of preparing the portal and the corresponding legal agreements that all communities will need to be signing on to. It was a dense conversation, and it was relative to what the county's expectation is for legal sign off of any documents by communities engaging in this federal grant process. After much debate, I believe we settled on the idea that Mints would draft an agreement for the county's review this coming Monday afternoon at 12 o'clock. This will complete the final prong in the readiness for the portal to be used by communities. As the commissioners know, last week there was an in-person tri-county meeting with other commissioners, and Plymouth County revealed that they are on track to open up their portal the last week in September. Clifton Larson Allen, which has taken the lead on the project portal, as well as Powers and Sullivan, of course, and Vincent Levin, will be ready for Bristol and Norfolk County to enact their portals shortly thereafter. So as promised to our communities, I think we're looking at the beginning of October for the portal activities to be open and for our communities to start working on their applications into our grant opportunities. So
That's great. That is great. That's great.
We're on track, and we continue to have open, productive dialogue. One footnote, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I believe Barnstable County Commissioners are taking a vote this afternoon to potentially join the program. And I think if you recall from the meeting last week, they had some members that had attended and they were very impressed with the presentation and see a path forward for their use. I don't want to telegraph the vote, but we're optimistic that if and when they do join, obviously it's a financial benefit to us because we split now by four ways rather than three, all of the one-time costs associated with the project. So trending pretty good for ARPA. That is all I have at this time. The American Rescue Plan.
Fantastic. That's great. Great news.
Okay, moving on, this 15, report on the COVID-19 response.
Very briefly, Commissioners, I did take the opportunity this week to reach out to the other elected officials within Norfolk County to hopefully update you on their take for COVID response. I spoke to Treasurer Bellotti and Register of Deeds Bill O'Donnell just to make sure that their spaces, their buildings, their people feel that the county is providing them enough support, protection, and safety measures as the COVID pandemic continues to be in our midst. The treasurer indicated that he's quite comfortable with the current standards that the commissioners have been practicing. The register had a very good conversation. He was describing a little bit of the history of what he went through in his space. He's obviously a very public-facing operation. He wanted the opportunity to kind of team back and think on the request. I told him to do so, that this is an iterative process, that we hope to keep this item on the agenda for the foreseeable future. And if things change, certainly come before us so that we can all act in unison and with a clear understanding of what's in the best interest of the public, in his case, and also the employees who work in our buildings. But at this point, I have no other updates relative to the COVID-19 response. Again, we just continue to monitor, but the brief update was the elected officials have been communicated and will update as soon as they provide any new information.
Any questions, Dick?
Yes, very quickly, Mr. Chairman, through you. Did John have any dialogue with DA Morrissey about a possible vaccination site for the third booster? I know it's a little bit jumping the gun, but we're on COVID. Any follow up on that?
I have not, sir.
Okay. Just wondering. Okay, thank you.
I'm all set. Report of the county director, item 16.
A few items here. Tomorrow, there's a finance committee meeting, the first of fiscal year 22. They will review and consider the supplemental budget request that I just presented to you. Excuse me. We expect that there'll be a full attendance of the committee meetings, committee participants. I've had preliminary conversations with the chair regarding the expectations. I've advanced a copy of the supplemental budget request. In addition, I'll be presenting to them, just for their information only, the county's position on ARPA grant management. As you know, we did a town hall back in August to our communities. I'll be going through that presentation with the finance committee so they understand the gist of how we plan to operate, and also give them an insight as to how the administrative costs associated with the grant will be used to fund the needs of Norfolk County service contracts, and also the 0.5% takeaway the county intends to use for county projects. So they don't need to approve anything on a grant according to general law, but I do think it's a good business practice to keep them informed on our intentions for use of the ARPA grant. So they'll hear from me on both sides tomorrow. I intend to follow up that plan and assist the advisory board when they meet later in September on the 29th at the agricultural school, excuse me, and inform them of how things are trending as well. Same meeting, just 2 weeks apart. This past week, Assistant Director Bill Buckley and I participated with Mr. Mark Abrahams in several Norfolk County's communities on a regional services listening session. It was a very interesting call. We had members of a variety of different communities in Norfolk County talk about their interests. What do they want for regional services? What do they find useful? I will tell you, globally speaking, there was a strong interest in traffic monitoring and traffic management services, as well as engineering services. Both Mark Abrahams, Bill Buckley, and I felt that the process was very productive, because I think one of the things they're asking for are augmented services that they find difficult to procure in the open marketplace, and they would find very helpful to have as a regional service solution. So it's a step in the right direction. I think it will fortify Mr. Abraham's report to you when he comes to meet with you September 22nd and delivers his phase 2 report to you on his deliverable. One item I want to call your attention to, Commissioners, is an email I sent to you individually last night. Mr. Abrahams and I have had a conversation about the deliverable. He would like to know if we can move the Treasury, the Registry of Deeds components of that deliverable out until October 6th. And essentially what he's grappling with is a workflow issue. You may recall, we saw him back in August, and he delivered to us the phase one piece of his deliverable, and it was largely financial tools and financial policies. This deliverable was really the meat and potatoes of what he was hired to do. One coming up on September 22nd is going to give you a best practices, a regional services update, and recommendations for consolidations and other elements of county business. It's a very substantial product. It's going to have a table of organizational charts and other elements that you haven't seen before. Due to the depth and breadth of what he's preparing, we thought that by moving the elected official pieces as a final component 2 weeks later might allow the county commissioners to kind of the opportunity to breathe into what they're reading and accepting. I personally don't have a problem with it. I think it's a sensible approach. He's proposing October 6th for the elected official deliverables, and it will give him a little bit more time to refine the pieces that will be a part of his deliverable on September 22nd. So I guess I'm looking for a consensus from the commissioners that they don't object to that idea.
Take your thoughts.
That's fine. It's funny. We've been waiting for this report, and we did say it would take a while, and it seems like we had said it might be up to October, but that's fine. As long as we get it and we have a chance to examine it and vet it, that's all that matters. So that's fine. I like the approach. We'll wait till October, and that'll be great. No problem at all.
Okay. So you want to vote on that?
I don't think you need a vote as long as you're prepared to receive it on the 6th. No vote
Okay.
needed.
I'm fine with that also.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly, if you're all set with
I am,
the,
sir. Thank you.
okay, so lastly was 17, emergency items, topics that the chair did not reasonably anticipate would be discussed. Anything new? Okay. we're all set.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would like to just, if with your permission, very pleased to hear the news on the juvenile court issue that was resolved rather quickly. I'm very, very proud of the fact that the commissioners, all of us, joined with the Brookline delegation and other parties that were able to convince the trial court to make sure Brookline was serviced as they wanted, and that seems to have been resolved. I'm very happy to see that. That was done over the weekend, I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So good news, good update. Nice to see that we're able to get something done in a rather a good fashion and take care of constituents. So that's it.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
All right. So I'll move that we adjourn. Mr. Chairman, Joe Shea's going to be in trouble. You moved this pretty fast. This is pretty fast. What time is it, my friend? 1:55?
158.
Yeah, 158.
All right. So moved. I'll move adjournment.
Okay, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Much appreciated.
All right. Thank you.
And Dick, I'll see you at 2:30.